Life moves quickly, and ideas are fleeting. A thought pops into your head, then it gets chased away, ousted by some more pressing matter. A text message, an email, a short video you didn't ask to be shown but now can't stop thinking about. If only there were some way to capture these thoughts before they vanish in a haze of algorithmic content. Some simple device one could pour one's heart out into. Man, it's 1989. That device exists, and it's called the Microcassette recorder. Today, we're going to be doing a deep dive into this iconic piece of note-taking history. Specifically, I wanted to figure out how I can use this obsolete tape format to make music. Designed for spoken word, microcassette recorders are optimized for the human voice.
Diane, 11:30 a.m., February 24th. Entering the town of Twin Peaks.
So it seems fitting that my first experiment should involve my voice. My plan is to just sing into it using the built-in microphone. I quickly make my way through 2 octaves, sampling every half step. Then I rewind the tape and play it back into my computer. All told, I've recorded 90 seconds of sound, which now I'm going to chop up into 27 individual notes, just over 2 octaves. And here's the resulting decent sampler library. So that's the raw sound of me singing. And then we've got a slider here where we can increase the number of voices. Not bad. It's very grainy, and the pitch is a bit unstable, all of which adds to its character. I'm going to release this little sample library for free. I'll put a link in the description to this video. But yeah, I'm really encouraged by these initial results. In addition to my voice, I've also recorded a few different synthesizer sounds. It seems that anything that passes through this little recorder gets that same dusty, melancholic sound that I just can't seem to get enough of. Anyway, I've now reached out to my longtime collaborator, Venus Theory, and we've decided to work on a larger sampling project based on microcassette technology. To that end, we've each ordered 3 different models off of eBay so that we'll have a range of different devices to work with. While we wait for all these other recorders to arrive, let's do some more research. The history of sound recording technology is inextricably linked to the history of the typewriter. The first commercial typewriter was introduced in 1873, and the first commercial sound recorders were introduced in 1888, so within 15 years of each other. Right from the get-go, some of the very first people to adopt either technology were courtroom stenographers.
Near the witness stand of every American court will be seen the shorthand court reporter.
These were professionals who had the challenging task of translating spoken words, things that were said in a courtroom, into official-looking transcripts. Because people sometimes speak at an alarming rate, courtroom reporters would jot down notes by hand, using one of many shorthand systems, which they would then type up into official transcripts when they had more time. Eventually, they would switch to using specialized shorthand machines, but either way, there was always that second step, and they often had to produce their official transcripts within 24 hours, so anything that would speed up that process was very welcome. Touch typing was invented in 1877, and the guy who invented it was, you guessed it, a courtroom reporter. In 1888, the first sound recorders came along. These used wax cylinders. Once again, courtroom reporters were among the first users. It's easy to see the appeal. If you could capture the actual sound of someone speaking and then play it back more slowly, it would of course make the whole process of converting those words into a written document much easier. Use of both technologies, typewriters and sound recorders, spread into the business world. Suddenly, there was an increased demand for typists. Traditionally, clerical work had been a male-dominated profession. In 1870, women made up only 4.5% of the clerical workforce. But with the advent of the typewriter, everything changed. By 1900, it was 76% women, a trend which continued for the entire century that followed. So how does any of this have anything to do with a microcassette recorder? Well, it's all part of the very same lineage. Wax cylinders were replaced by recordable phonographs in the 1940s, and then tape recorders in the 50s. This is the Grundig Stenoret from 1957. a reel-to-reel tape recorder that was specifically designed for stenographers. It came with a foot pedal.
As she listens, Sally types. Occasionally, she stops the transcribing machine to catch up with the dictation.
Is she stopping it now?
Yes, with a foot pedal.
This one came from a courtroom in the suburbs of Philadelphia. I was even able to find a German TV ad for it.
Wir sind ein Stenoretto-Team.
In the 70s, many companies switched to cassette tapes. The sound quality was actually a bit worse than reel-to-reel, but they were much more portable. Some businesses went for something even smaller, microcassettes. Introduced in 1969 by Olympus, the microcassette format was the stuff of spy movies. Of course, they found their way into pop culture. They got featured in the movie A Clockwork Orange, and many years later on the TV show Twin Peaks.
Diane, I'm holding in my hand a small box of chocolate bunnies.
And formed the basis of a recurring gag on SNL.
Note to self, cancel plans to return to New Mexico.
So small it could fit in your jacket pocket. Perfect for surreptitiously recording a conversation, taking voice notes while you're on an airplane, or proving to your spouse that you don't talk in your sleep. What a weird ad campaign. Anyway, as you can see, microcassettes were marketed both to consumers as well as to corporate America, which brings us to the present. All of my microcassette recorders have arrived. 4 handheld units and this thing. It's a transcription machine from the early 90s, just like the ones that were produced for reel-to-reel. It also has a foot pedal for pausing the tape. The only difference is it uses microcassettes. Okay, so I've tested the new handheld units and none of them work. The only thing that works is that desktop transcriber unit. It even has a slider to control the speed of the tape. How cool is that? Still, I'm not willing to give up on these handheld units just yet. I feel like I ought to be able to fix at least some of them. Let's start with this Sony. I'm gonna get out my trusty screwdrivers and unscrew the back. Now I just need to figure out how to get the shell open. So that's what's inside. Almost all tape recorders have a belt inside of them. It's what causes the reels of tape to spin. These belts are basically just rubber bands. I'm assuming what's wrong with this thing, probably what's wrong with all of them, is that the belt has snapped. When I lift up the circuit board, I can see pieces of the old belt in there. Let me try to take it out. There it is. Luckily, I have a whole bag of replacement belts that I ordered for another project. All I need to do is find one that's the same size and slip it back onto the spindles. I use this tweezers to get it positioned correctly around the spindles. It takes a few tries, but it's not too bad. Okay, time to start putting this thing back together.
This is a test.
It works. The best thing is, the 2 Sony models I have are almost identical, so I'm able to use the knowledge I gained from this fix to fix the other one as well. As for the 2 Olympus models, they're hopeless. They're beautifully designed, but all those parts are so tiny that it's just impossible to work with. In fact, if you look out on eBay, you'll notice that there are a tremendous number of microcassette recorders in the $20 to $30 range, and almost all of them will have the words untested or for parts next to them. It's my strong suspicion that almost all of these are broken, and that almost all of them actually have the same affliction. Their belt has snapped. So, a word of advice, only buy one that says that it's been tested. So this weekend, I was over on South Street with my family, and we happened to pop into Retrospect, which is one of my favorite thrift stores, and what did they have on the shelf there but a microcassette recorder, which is kind of crazy because I never find microcassette recorders at thrift stores. Probably because they're all broken. Anyway, I brought it home, I did a little bit of research, and I discovered that it's actually the very same model that got used on the TV show Twin Peaks. Twin Peaks has, of course, an iconic soundtrack by Mr. Angelo Badalamenti. The soundtrack makes use of a lot of the same kinds of synthesizer sounds that I've been capturing for this project. So for this particular model to fall into my hands right now feels like a very good sign. Also, the timing is pretty great. I actually have an appointment to go and sample a piano over at a local rec center. It's just this very beat up piano that I think is going to sound cool. Obviously, I was going to record it digitally, and I still am, but given that I have all these recorders, I figured I might as well bring them along too. And we can compare and contrast and see what all the different recorders sound like. Sampling a piano is pretty much the same as sampling my voice. Once I'm set up, I make my way through the entire piano keyboard, sampling every 6 notes or so. In this way, I'm able to capture the subtle timbre changes that occur at different parts of the piano keyboard. All in all, kind of a relaxing process. Not a bad way to spend 20 minutes. Okay, I'm home now, and I've chopped up all my samples and created several different libraries, one for each of the recorders. I'm going to play the exact same arpeggiation on all of them so we can really hear the differences between the timbres. It's got a nice kind of warbly sound. Here's the next one. Still pretty warbly, but the sound has a lot more body. Let's hear the transcriber. Okay, so the transcriber is noticeably more full sounding. And finally, so yeah, they sound very, very different. I wonder what they all sound like together. Oh, I like that. Hearing this makes me want to make ambient music using these devices. To that end, I walk around my studio recording as many different instruments as I can. My charango, the microfreak, the motor synth, my box violin. Then, with the tapes all filled up with different sounds, I plug all 4 dictaphones into my microcosm pedal. Right now, the pedal's turned down, so what we're hearing is the raw sound coming from the recorders. Let's turn the pedal up. Gradually, the sound gets bigger and bigger, until the individual notes disappear altogether. As we progress through each of the tapes, new notes and textures start to show up. And sometimes the different tape players will be playing different pitches, and it will create a sort of dissonance. Over the next few hours, I record 3 ambient sessions, experimenting also with Onward by Chase Bliss and the Poly-End Mess. But my favorite effect of all is just the sound of the recorders themselves. At one point, one of the tape players stops functioning, and we get this weird fluttering sound. Eventually, it settles down. And we can return to that sort of interstellar orchestra sound that the microcosm is so famous for. When I do come back to Earth, I take all the raw sounds I had recorded and chop them up. Since I have 4 recordings of each sound, I choose the one I like best in each case. Meanwhile, over in the Venus Theory studio, Cameron is doing very much the same thing, but with a completely different set of instruments and different recorders. All told, we end up with 50 different sound sources, which we've put together in a new sample library called Memos. The way it works is you can choose 2 different sound sources, one on the left and one on the right, and blend them together. The samples have all been denoised, but if you want, you can reintroduce the tape hiss using this knob here. And then once you've got your sounds, you can add effects or a speaker simulator. There's even a 90s style pitch shifter. By the way, if you're not into designing your own sounds, you actually don't have to do any of this, of course. It comes with 52 presets, and you can absolutely just surf through the different sounds and pick the ones you like. Anyway, I'm super proud of this library. It was a lot of work, but I think it was really worth it. I've personally been using it a lot. In fact, almost all the background music from this video was composed using Memos. For the next 2 weeks, the library is $25, after which it pops up to $49. So if these are your kind of sounds, now's a great time to grab it. Okay, I think that's it. And remember to grab the free vocal library too. There's a link to both libraries in the description to this video. See you soon.